Welcome to the first installment of this probably never-ending series of videos where I try to beat every game released for the Wii Virtual Console. In this pilot episode we will be taking a look at F-Zero. Developed and published by Nintendo, it was first released in Japan in 1990 for the SNES. So let's jump right into it. F-Zero is a racing game in the future where you can choose between 4 hover cars and 3 cups to play on, the Knight, Queen and King Cup. In order to beat this game, we are going to finish all of them on the pre-selected difficulty setting. We start our first match and immediately get overtaken by our 3 opponents. Now we got 5 laps to make it to the front. Let's go over the UI together. The top left shows our current score and ranking. Top right shows our power meter. This is basically used as a durability meter, and whenever we fully deplete it, our car will explode and crash. Under that we see our current speed and the lap time. The bottom left shows a minimap of the current track, and in the bottom right we see our life counter and 3 icons that are used to determine if we currently have a boost available or not. These boosts are obtained after completing a lap and can be used for a short burst of speed. But at this point in the playthrough, I didn't even know about it. So yes, let's talk gameplay. And let me preface this by saying, this gameplay right here is truly amazing. It is still fun even after all these years, over 30 years later. Even though of course the graphics didn't really hold up, gameplay is still nice, nothing to complain about. Like pretty much all the racing games, you use your control stick or whatever your controller offers to move your car into a direction, press A to go forward, B to slow down, but this game also offers you to either hold L or R to lean, left or right, and the combination out of these options basically enable you to control your hover car with, a good amount of precision. Of course you are hovering over the ground, so, can't expect too much, but honestly, the way they did it here, it is perfect. Okay, and with that out of the way, we drive 2 more laps around this track and finish our first race in first place. We get a short summary on how we did and move on to the next track, Big Blue. And this stage, oh man, it has one of the best video game soundtracks ever. Here, take a listen. So yeah, I absolutely love this track, but unfortunately this stage doesn't really have anything else to offer. So after a couple more laps, I get first and move on to the next one. So yeah, this is Sand Ocean, and I would say from this point onwards the tracks get progressively harder and harder. The difficulty in this track comes from the really sharp left turns, and if you're still new to the game, it can be quite difficult until you figure out that you can not press A all the time and still win a race, but at this point I'm still a little bit stubborn, and it's not too difficult. We are playing on beginner, so I make it safely into the 5th lap, and then the following happens. I bump into one of the orange cars, bump into a wall, into the next wall, continue to drive through the damaging zone, bump into the yellow car, bump 2 more times into the wall, followed by another bump into the yellow car, and get overtaken by the purple car. From 1st place to 4th place in under 20 seconds. Absolutely stunning performance. I have to say, wow. I did not think it could be this bad. Thankfully, we have a couple of continues that we can use here, so we don't have to try the whole cup again from the beginning. And on our second go around, it is much easier. We don't lose our 1st place once throughout the whole 5 laps and get an easy victory. Up next, Deathwind 1. And let me tell you something, I did not read the name of this track, so I did not know that there might be a wind gimmick in this one. Even though it was immediately apparent, the car just magically drifted towards the right and I did not notice this. Also, this is the first track that has these speed patterns on the ground that significantly boost you forward when you drive over them. As well as this mandatory healing zone that you have to go through on this track. I mean, nothing bad about that, you know, but it is quite tough to navigate through this if you try to overtake another player at the same time here. Even though this map, you know, looks quite simple, if you look at the minimap for example, it is quite tough to get a good time here since, you know, there are so many factors that can influence your performance here. And damn, just looking at this footage, you know, I'm getting completely stomped right here by the computers. But eventually we make it into the final lap, and yeah, let's take a look how that went. So I get a little bit stalled by the two orange computers here, as well as, you know, the slow zones. At this point during the gameplay I'm still blissfully unaware of how the boost mechanic works, you know, and I accumulate boosts for nothing. I hit both of the speed boosts and make it through the healing zone perfectly pretty much. And then I miss the speed boost, get blocked by the orange car, get overtaken, and only make it over the finish line in the second place. Well, that was unlucky, I guess. But still, we don't need to come in first place every match, so we move on to the fifth map, which is Silence. So this map is special. It really reminds me of Super Mario Kart's Rainbow Road for the SNES. It has these really sharp 90-degree turns all over the place, but they didn't look at Mario Kart's Rainbow Road, obviously, since that game released 2 years later than this one. So consider this one. I think Mario Kart really took heavy inspiration from some of these stages from F-Zero, and honestly I think that makes sense because F-Zero was really popular when it came out. But to be honest with you, this map is kinda boring. It doesn't really feature any special obstacles and is overall just kinda bland. So let's skip to the last lap. You can't really go that fast in this map because all the sharp edges cut into your speed, but at the same time I think this offers you the opportunity to really optimize your gameplay for this stage. For some of the other maps it's, you know, more straightforward to get a good time, but in this one I feel like it will take you a couple of tries until you figure out a good strategy how to go about each turn. So we finish up in third place and take some time to look at our stats. The game keeps track of all of your best times on all of the maps, and I think that's great, especially if you're going for high score runs / you know, fastest completion of any of these tracks. But without further ado, let's jump into the next cup, the Queen's Cup. In this cup we try out the yellow car. It is a little bit slower, but it has the best acceleration out of all the cars. And I just wanted to try something else for now. So the first race is going to be on Mute City 2, and we are starting to get into the recycled content. So look at the minimap, and now let's look at the minimap for Mute City 1. Yeah, amazing, amazing. The game promotes itself with having 15 unique maps, but, you know, I wouldn't say they are truly really unique. And since we already had some good experience on this map, we take the victory here easily and move on to the next one. This is Port Town 1. I think this is one of my favorite maps, to be honest. It really plays well. I like playing on it. So the first two jumps in the beginning are nice, you know, it has some nice turns that you need to make, and you don't need to slow down too fast. There's this gimmick, oh my god, I love it. What you just saw there is the car being pulled over by some like sort of magnetic strips, and I'm just going to show that again. So here you really get pulled into the side, and you need to, you know, counteract that by, you know, either holding in a different direction or, you know, make clever use of your L and R buttons. And overall I think this gimmick is just super nice to play around, feels super satisfying if you get it successfully and don't lose too much speed, you know, during these sections. Overall, that's why I think this map is great. And in the end, we don't come in first, but at least, you know, we make the second place. Yeah, just thinking about this map makes me want to play it again. So next up is Red Canyon 1. This is also one of my favorite maps, to be honest. It has some really sharp turns, you know, features my favorite object, the jumping pads, and makes, yeah, clever use of them in this case. There's not much to say about it, it just feels nice to play on this map, it's super fun. And although there were some mistakes in the first lap and I end up in 4th place, we still recover and make it to the finish line in 1st. The 4th race in the Queen's Cup is Whiteland 1, and this one introduces another new gimmick, and that is snow. Snow is slippery and other than that not really too impactful, I feel like. Even on my first lap I didn't really notice the snow on the ground. But on my first attempt I crashed here, so I had plenty of time to figure out what the snow is and how it interacts with the hovercar. Thankfully on the second attempt we don't crash out and actually make it in 1st. Hey! So yeah, I've been speeding through the Queen's Cup a little bit because I think the next stage probably needs some time to be talked about here in this video. So yeah, what comes after Whiteland 1? Of course, Whiteland 2. And what's so special about this map? Let's take a look together. So okay, this is me watching the footage back for the first time. Here's my live reaction. I remember this quite well, I think. Don't even really want to remember what happened here. Yeah. Oh, but yeah, what's actually nice here is that there's these really sharp turns that you can actually drive through if you want to take the extra damage. I think that's pretty cool. And yeah, here we are. What happened here? To be honest, I was so confused why I crashed out here. So without much thinking about it, I just attempted it again and we crash again. Nice! At this point I have no idea what's going on. I feel like I just need to hit the turn before this jump perfectly and then I would be able to make it, but it is just difficult and I can't make it. So on my next attempt I try to be really careful and try to take the last turn before the jump as good as possible and still crash out. Okay, we have one more life. Let's make this one count. I take my time, line up the jump and... So yeah, at this point, I am defeated. I am game over, inside and outside of the game. I was so lost. I just couldn't think of a way that would get me past this point. Maybe I should just use a different car. Or maybe, you know, I just need to get lucky. I don't know. So anyways, I attempt the Queen's Cup again and make it back to Whiteland 2 successfully, this time with the blue car. I approach the jump and crash once, crash twice, and crash 3 times once more, giving me another game over, and at this point, I don't know what to do anymore. After some contemplating, I decide that I'm going to look up a guide for this one. And as it turns out, there is a secret to this. A secret that the game does not tell you at all. So, I drive through the 4 races again and end up in Whiteland 2 again. This time with my secret on board. And what's that secret? How are we going to beat the jump? Well, on the left side of the screen you can see an input display. And when I'm approaching this jump, I do a special input. Pay close attention right now. Yes, you just need to hold down on your controller. That's the secret. It gives you another speed boost while using the jumping pad. And there's no reason for this. Why does this need to be in the game? I don't understand it at all. So yeah, I definitely needed a break after this one, just to step away from the PC for a moment, think about it. Yeah. Okay, but anyways, the rest of this race was really a joke, you know. After so many attempts, it's not difficult anymore, and I easily get first place. Yeah, that's the Queen's Cup. Next up is the King's Cup. So the first racetrack in the last cup is Mute City 3. And let me ask you a question. Have you seen this minimap before? Maybe, yeah? Yeah, we already played on this exact map, but it wasn't night. There were a couple more obstacles here and there, but honestly, nothing really impactful. So, yeah, I end up winning this one, and let's move to the next one. Deathwind 2 also looks like a repeat, just from the name of it, but is actually quite different from Deathwind 1. Only similarity being that there's still wind, and it's also really difficult. Especially the 90-degree turns are very difficult to manage. We still have the boost pads that speed you up considerably, so the combination out of all these things makes this very difficult and make me crash on my first attempt here. Luckily, on my second attempt, I managed to avoid the orange cars for the most part and make it to the finish line in the first place. Next up is Port Town 2. It has the exact same gimmick as Port Town 1, you know, the magnets. Other than that, this one is really not special. I get first place on my first attempt, so let's move on immediately. Sadly, the exact same scenario is true for Red Canyon 2. It just plays exactly the same, and we get first place on our first attempt. But worry not, the last race map, Firefield, really has it in store for us. So here's another live narration of the first lap. We start out on a really long, straightforward road and come across a couple of mines into our first really sharp right turn. And then into another really sharp right turn, into a really sharp left turn. And to be honest, I took so much damage in every lap from these turns. They are really similar to each other, but you have to slow down so much that it's just difficult. And then we come across the white and red underground, which I, to this day, don't know what it does exactly. I still think that some sort of magnet protection. In the end of the lap, we need to make a decision. Do we take the long way around and get healed? Or do we cut the corner short and make some time up? I think for me it's definitely the best to always go for the heal because I take so much damage during this race. So yeah, I crashed out twice, but there wasn't really a single situation that could pinpoint down where was the biggest mistake, because I was just taking damage everywhere throughout the course. But in the end, we managed to get second place and beat F-Zero in 1 hour and 45 minutes. F-Zero has been credited with being the game that set the standard for the racing genre and invented the futuristic racing subgenre of video games. Honestly, this gameplay is fantastic. It's super fun, the mechanics are well implemented, but at times not well communicated to the player. But I mean, that's how it was with all the games, right? You needed to take a look at the manual from time to time to gather some insights. I hope something like this isn't going to screw me over in the future though. Other than that, the graphics are not that great anymore. They probably were nice for the era this game released in, but the time definitely took its toll on it. So, in conclusion, would I recommend playing this game? Was it any good? Yeah. I can totally understand why there's still a small and dedicated fanbase that try to raise this game for the best times. Why? Because it's fun. And that's what matters in the end.
After finishing the race, I actually streamed this game for a couple more hours to my friends and shared with them what I like about this game. So yeah, thanks for watching my F-Zero video. I want to continue showing the games of the Wii Virtual Console in roughly the order they released in. But since, there were a couple of titles that released at once for the launch, we are going to consult a random number generator to see what's up next. So, let's spin the wheel. Okay, Solomon's Key. I've never heard of this game before, so yeah. It's going to be a good one, I hope. And if you want to be notified when I release my next video, feel free to subscribe and ring the bell. See you next time.